We now move on to our plenary session 3, titled The Multilingual Assessment Challenge, The Way Forward. We are delighted to have Professor Rama Mathew, ELT consultant and retired professor of education, University of Delhi, to lead this session. Please welcome Professor Rama.
Good evening. I know it's the end of the day. All ready to go, I guess. But we'll do a very quick presentation, and I hope you will have some questions maybe. So I finish early so that you can respond or ask questions. Is that okay? Can you all hear me? Okay. So we are talking about assessment. The multilingual assessment, and I call it a challenge because we don't seem to be doing much of it. Multilingual pedagogy, yes, multilingual strategies or methodology to quite an extent, I think, many of you, but assessment seems to be few and far between, multilingual assessment. So I just thought I should share some thoughts and ideas and a little evidence that I have about what I have done and what some other people have done. So I hope it's interesting for you and you can keep it, take the next step forward. I call it the challenge because it's tough. We are going to tell ourselves some home truths. Not very pleasant, probably, but then, yeah, we seem to be shying away from these, I thought. So we are going to begin with that. It's all not negative, but then almost like a statement of facts. We acknowledge that we live in a multilingual society in India. We all know many, many languages, and we use them in a very integrated, interchangeable way. And we are very happy to do that. But when it comes to teaching, we seem to focus on one language at a time. The syllabus tells us to do that. The curriculum framework tells us to do that in no, easy ways. But then we do it. And this is another home truth. Students can't learn English and use it to learn other subjects simultaneously. We have introduced English medium in many, many schools, some states as well. No matter what the national curriculum framework says, but we should know this. It's a very tough demand. It's very unrealistic to expect students to learn English and also to understand or learn content subjects or do maths. And assessment has always lagged behind pedagogy, just like communicative language teaching, testing. Communicative language happened in the 90s and 2000s and so on to a great extent. Many schools took to that very easily, very happily, and people started using role plays and a lot of interactive activities in class. But when it came to testing, it remained almost the same as before. Testing grammar items separately, testing rehearsed writing, and so on. So the assessment somehow has lagged behind. I don't know if I can make a very caustic remark. Even assessment here in this session is the last one. We talked a lot about pedagogy during the whole morning and materials and then issues related to that, but assessment is at the end. Somehow it's tough, you see. It's very tough. It's very challenging. And then we seem to shy away from that. And that's not helping us. It results in negative washback because whatever you do in the class or whatever you do in assessment has an impact on how you teach what you do in schools. So if it is monolingual testing, single language testing, you try to do that in the classroom. Even though we adopt some ML strategies, multilingual, that is, to teach, there's no multilingual or bilingual assessment of languages or subjects. I don't think people allow mother tongues or their home languages for testing history or mathematics if it's an English medium class. Or am I presuming it wrong? Huh? Can they answer in two languages? They might have questions in two languages. No, I'm not talking about that. You want to get across the question, but when it comes to answering, they had better be good in that language. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean. Okay, we are now looking at the multilingual turn. I'll just tell you what it is. It's just a term, it's a technical term, maybe. Just look at the first one. The gap between multilingual societies and monolingual teaching practices needs to be confronted. So, as I said, the first statement of mine was we live in a multilingual society, we are all multilinguals, but when it comes to classroom teaching, we are doing monolingual teaching and assessment. So there's a multilingual turn that is needed. That is, there has to be more, and the gap should be reduced between what we do outside and what we do in the classroom. Multilingual views languages in an additive manner. That is, learning many languages is called multilingual, which is a little, which is a misnomer. But what we do is translingual. Of course, this is also, you can also debate this. Translingual refers to synergy, treating languages as mutually influencing each other. So as you yourself know, if you examine yourself, we keep switching from one language to another very easily in a facile, very flexible way. But then that's our language. Multilingualism is our language. So when we try to use only one language, we are being a little sort of conscious, a little artificial, if you may call it. So that's how it is. With multilingual, there is only there's a multilingualism. Translanguaging refers to using one's idiolect. Idiolect is very, very personal. Your idiolect is different from mine, although we might say the same languages. Without regard to socially and politically defined language labels or boundaries. So all these people, there's a lot of work on this. Languages are socially defined categories, boundaries. But then the way multilinguals function is with breaking the boundaries. In fact, two languages don't exist separately in my head. We might be able to use it, but then they're together. It describes emergent multilinguals' active and dynamic use of their languages as an integrated whole, both in their minds and in their oral and written expressions. It's a unique, as I said, personal language. Keep thinking about it because it's a very important idea. It's not mine. Well, there's a lot of work on it. It's a grammar that takes care of all the languages that I know. It's not separate. That emerges in interaction with other speakers and enables the person's use of language. The two, if you're a bilingual, the two named languages only for the outsider. It exists for the outsider, but for us, it's together. Insider's perspective of the speaker, there is only his or her full idiolect or repertoire. So let's just leave it. I don't want to go too much into this thing because I want to quickly come to assessment. What is the assessment challenge? Languages exist as separate entities and consider competence in pure languages. We want children or ourselves to be pure. Don't, contaminate. If you use another language, even the word contamination is used. So we like to be purists, as they call it. Even in music, Indian classical music, there is a purist concept, and there is a combination of Hindustani and Carnatic, for example, or even in medicine, or allopaths, homeopaths, and so on. They're purists, there are combination people, all that. Globally, there's acceptance of ML teaching. This is Shohami, who is a very critical and a very an influencer, if I might call her, who really critiques the kind of assessment we do. Just read what she has to say. Assessments carried out only in an L2 or a single dominant language, such as Hindi, do not give a complete or accurate picture of what multilingual learners know. Do you agree with this? Why is it not accurate? Why does it give a partial picture or an inaccurate picture? Do you know what I'm talking about? They know some of it, but it's not all of it. They know other languages. So when I test it in that dominant language, what I'm getting is a partial picture of their understanding. Correct. So we are only getting a partial picture of what learners know. So know this. I mean, it's not a wrong thing. You must know that we are not getting a full picture of the students' capacities, students' abilities. With a focus on multilingualism, meaning making and good communication need to be prioritized over accuracy. I'm talking about young learners more, in a major way. This language learning involves using all of one's linguistic and cultural resources, making mistakes, receiving informal as well as formal feedback, and self-correcting over time while proficiency develops. So we are talking about the proficiency development process. What happens? There are lots of wrong things being said or thought about. We go on correcting it on our way. Somebody gives us feedback. All this is a learning process, and that has to happen. This is from Carol Benson. So there are two such pictures I'm going to show you, figures I'm going to show you. It's very dull here, I don't know why. What happens when we assess only in a dominant language, that is L2? Scores are low, and we do not know why. They may not have understood the question or understood the content. It's not that they don't know, but we don't know why. We do not know what L1 literacy skills are available for transfer to L2. L1 skills, that is mother tongue, it can transfer once it is developed properly. All the reading that they learn, about reading, what kinds of skills to use, all that automatically transfers to L2 if you have given them sufficient practice, exposure, training in reading in L1. But even as you give that, or they are not proficient in reading or writing or speaking, you give them another language, then the transfer possibility is very low. We do not know if learners have content knowledge. A small example comes to mind. The teacher asked a student, "What's your father's name?" And the child said something, Shankar Mahadevan, something. Then the teacher asks another student, "What's your father's name?" He's silent. Okay, he's heard the question, but he's silent. And the teacher's interpretation is, he doesn't even know father's name. Is there a problem in this interpretation? What's the problem with the interpretation? The teacher thinks he's dumb. She actually used the word dumb. He doesn't even know the father's name. What could have gone wrong? He doesn't even understand the question. It's not that he doesn't know his father's name. Is it unthinkable for you? No, he doesn't understand the question in English. As simple as that. So when you ask a question, when somebody doesn't answer, you don't know whether the problem is with the question or he doesn't know the answer. Do you see the problem? It's a serious problem. That's what this slide is talking about. Positive washback on teaching, interaction, and meaning making. Oh, sorry, I've gone back to this one. Yeah. So it's a negative backwash on teaching, rote learning, and memorization when you test only in L2, English. Negative backwash on the education system, L1 seen as stealing time from L2. And if it is on L1 and both or all languages, then it's all positive. So I would like you to remember these. I don't know how clear it is for the people at the back. And here all languages are seen as valued or important. This I'll skip now. So logic of assessing multilingual in any classroom. No matter the language of instruction, that is the medium of instruction, L1 is learner's strongest language. Do you all agree with it, or you have any doubt? Please raise your hand if you all agree. Whoever agrees. Not many hands I see. L1 is not their strongest language? Oh. I'm just saying L1, knowledge of L1, is it their strongest language? The mother tongue. Whatever the mother tongue, it may not be the school language. The mother tongue could be different from the school language. Okay. Linking L1 and L2 facilitates L2 development. Do you agree with this? Linking L1 and L2 facilitates L2 development. That means use multilingual methodology, strategies, etc. Using both or all languages allows teachers to document and improve the learning process. Okay, these are all the givens. I mean, it's not the logic of this. And what is the conclusion? Even if the language of instruction is L2, learners should be assessed in the L1 and bilingually. Now, this is my main argument. You need to assess in both languages, and if possible in 3-4 languages. We'll see how. So that you give a good chance to the student to tell you or show what they know. Otherwise, just like I gave you the example of who is your father, or what's the name of your father, you may not know whether they know the answer or they don't know the answer. So this one is a very interesting and an important one in my view. This assessment cycle for multilingual learners, suggested by Gottlieb. Here it's just like if you know about action research, it's a cyclical process. You start with planning, collecting data, collecting and organizing, then interpreting the data, then evaluating and reporting, giving feedback, and then again taking action, then you go back. So as assessors in the classroom, I'm basically talking about teacher as an assessor, has to be involved in this kind of a cyclical process. I'm sure many of you are involved in this kind of a process in the classroom. That's how you know much more than what tests can tell you about your students. Is that true? Do you know a lot about your students, although test scores sometimes are very deceptive? They don't do well on tests, but you say, I don't know how. He knows everything. He was so interactive. He was so responsive and so on in the classroom. And you are looking at his gestures, you are looking at his expression, so many things to look at to find out whether somebody is with you or able to understand you. Or test scores, especially written test scores, are very, very limited and one-sided. Okay, so this cycle is a nice one, and I want you to keep that in mind. I want to tell you about some experiments that I have been part of, some research studies. I'll go to that and come back to this. Examples. I'm going to focus on young learners, which means maybe at the primary level, where they have begun to learn L2, and L1 is anyway their strong language, dominant language. For some, it's not the dominant language. Their L1 is another mother tongue. But sadly, what happens is, because we assign so much importance to the school language, children who don't speak the school language when they come to school, they feel shy, and they try to deny that they are some other language speakers. So if there is, in fact, in Delhi schools, I saw a lot of this. A child is a Haryanavi child, Punjabi, Maithili, Bhojpuri. But if you ask them, what's your mother tongue? They say Hindi. Why? Why do they say it's Hindi? Because they want to belong to the dominant group. Because they are shy to say that their language is something else, because they don't want to be secluded. So there's a problem there. So I I'm focusing on young learners so that we know how to do justice. It's also about fairness, how to include them, and what we can do with the classroom-based tests. So I'm focusing on classroom-based assessment and how we can interpret how they perform on the test so that we can leverage it for better. This is from a class recording from a study that I did in the primary school a few years ago. I was trying to teach them English. I was trying to especially teach them reading comprehension. I was an English teacher. And I went to their school every day, maybe 4 days a week for 4 or 5 months. And I taught them to read, write, and so on. But then when I looked at this class, I took about a month to understand what they like doing, how much they know, and what they can do and what they can't do. I was quite surprised to see many of them didn't know their alphabets, grade 5, government school. But then, I had to continue. They had come up to grade 5, although they had begun English in grade 1. And this story I'm telling them, I'm reading aloud. So you can read the transcript. We recorded, and this is the transcript. It's about Billu, who is an auto rickshaw driver. He picks up children from school every day, takes them to school, and he has become friends with those 3 or 4 children. So it's that story. One day, one boy left his lunch box. He forgot his lunch box in the auto rickshaw. And Billu, who is the driver, he doesn't realize until another passenger came and said, "Here is a box." So he says, "Sorry, I won't take you today to wherever you want to go." This is the passenger, new passenger. And he takes the lunch box to school. By then, it's already lunchtime there. It takes some time for him. And when he goes, Dinesh has already eaten his lunch by sharing it with his friends. And Billu gives him the lunch box. He said, Dinesh says, "Oh, Billu bhaiya, why did you take the trouble? You should have eaten it. You must be so hungry." Then he said, No, I had to reach it to you. I thought you wouldn't have had lunch, and he gives him the box. Okay, so that's the story. So here he says, he saw that a man, I'm reading the 4th bullet point. Teacher said he's reading. He saw that a man was waving to him. He was waving to Billu for the auto rickshaw. This is the passenger. When I'm reading it, this is probably the first reading or the second reading, and this girl is able to say what it means. So they keep giving the translation or the meaning. And this shows that they are with me when I'm reading. And remember, they didn't know, many of them didn't know alphabets. They had not read a story like this before. So that was happening. I'm just picking out one transcript. So Sanket, those who don't know Hindi, it's there in the translation, is asking him to stop. Sanket de raha hai rokne ke liye. Do you agree with this translation? So do you agree with the meaning, interpretation that child is making? He saw that a man was waving to him. He was waving to Billu for the auto rickshaw. Is that correct? Sanket de raha hai. Okay. So they are able to do these kinds of things. Next one. Who do you like most? At the end of the story, I'm asking this question. Who do you like most, Billu or Dinesh? Dinesh, you gave him the lunch box saying, "Tum khao." You eat because you must be really hungry. Then Billu and Dinesh, they like both. Then Dinesh, tell me why you like Dinesh. Kyunki Dinesh ne apna lunch Billu ko diya. Because Billu gave him his lunch to Billu. Then another student is modifying it slightly, in a slightly more complex kind of a structure. Billu ko Dinesh ne lunch box diya tha. So they are reporting on the story. Can you see that? Now they are able to do this. I thought this was wonderful. They're able to do this in their own language. Do you think they would have been able to say he had given the lunch box, that's why he was feeling happy? Or he gave the lunch box and therefore Billu was happy, or whatever? So I think these nuances or the complex patterns and everything or the essence of the story comes through so well when they can express in L1. So give them a chance. So this way they were able to understand the story, read with me. When there were blanks, they could fill it up. And then when I read it wrong, they said, no, you're reading wrong. They'll correct it for me. I deliberately make mistakes. So all this kind of reading aloud, reading by themselves, all this happened over 2-3 months. I also did one thing. I taught them how to visualize, because visualization is a very important technique in reading. If they can visualize the scene or imagine the whole, context, then they become more imaginative and they can draw this. Class 5 children like drawing. So I gave them a whole lot of drawing materials and they were supposed to draw. So what happened over the 3-4 months with their drawing and then discussing their drawing with their other classmates. Initially, this was their drawing for Billu Dinesh story. Okay, you can make out what it is. I think Billu is going somewhere I can't even make out. Okay, and they always took a ruler and a protractor to draw, and they always put 4 clouds. Here there is no cloud. They put 4 clouds and a sun and some birds. That was their default setting. Any drawing began like that. And then there was very little time left, or they were not interested in the other detail. That's how they were able to draw. But slowly what happened? This kind of a thing happened. You can understand what's going on. And then this one. This is a school, and there is a small caption also. I don't know if you can read there. They started putting captions to explain what they're drawing. Can you see this now? An auto rickshaw with children sitting there. And then it says Billu and Dinesh. He's picking him up, I think. Here some passenger is calling him out. And this is where, look at this now. It's got quite complex or interesting. Lots of detail. And there are expressions. Expressions started to emerge, and then the posture, everything. Okay, so in this whole thing, as they drew, another activity was talking about their drawing to their friend. They had written drawn something else. So what have I drawn? Which part of the story does it focus on? They could focus on anything. In fact, they became so interested in drawing that they took more paper to draw more. I have some more to draw. And after that, this was not the only story I told them. I told them several. So they said, as they listened to the story, they started imagining things so that they could make a drawing. So that sort of led to prediction, anticipation, imagination, creativity, whatever you call it. That made their reading better. So I'm just saying, and then when they talked, it was in Hindi, not in English at all. So they were very articulate, and they were animated, and they could tell a story now based on their drawing. So all this I thought was really very good improvement, and gave me an idea of who could do what and how. Lot of oral work, drawing work, and so on. One thing I remember, one day there was a parent-teacher meeting, and they got the idea that they want to show these drawings to the parents when they came to school. So we tied a string, and they put up all their drawings. When parents came, they started telling them the story. That was really a very touching kind of an activity. The parents didn't know they were drawing. They could talk, because there was very little talk at home, I think, between parents and parents and children. That was another thing. This was a government school with very poor children in school, with their parents working all the time. Okay, that's one experiment. Any question on this? I'm trying to demonstrate how you can do assessment along with teaching, which is multimodal, multilinguistic, and multilingual, and also oral and many other forms of assessment. I have made this, not part of this, is not a, I have written this up as a project. We have made tabulations of all the scores they got, how they improved in what, so all that's available. Another example, this is more recent. Again, I told them a story again, grade 5, but this time in Telangana, Hyderabad, an urban, rural setup, semi-urban setup. So again, children, lots of migrant workers, children, because there are lots of construction going on in Hyderabad. So Biharis, Nepalis, Bangladeshis, and Lambadi, Urdu, Telugu, Kannada. Imagine these many languages in one classroom. And it's all become English medium in Hyderabad, in Telangana, by the way. This is the 3rd year that's going on. So they're supposed to be learning in English, but then they don't. There's a lot of Telugu. So I took a story again and asked them comprehension question. I also did some visualization activities, but here I'm showing you the written script. There's a student they had to say this is an apple tree and a man. How much time do I have? How much time? 5 minutes. So apple tree and a boy. He goes there to play every day and he's very happy. He plucks trees, he climbs, he swings, he does everything. And then over a period, he becomes bigger and bigger and quite old. And then next time he goes, it's many years, apple tree says, didn't you come at all? I was waiting for you. He says, I have no time to play now. I need toys, so I don't have money. I want toys. He said, I don't have any toys for you, but you can pluck all my apples, go and sell it and buy toys. And he goes away. Some more years go by. And then he comes back and he's an older man. He says, I need a house and I don't have a house. Give me something to make a house. He says, take my branches. And then he goes away. Then after some time, I want to sail because I'm so tired in life. And he says, take all my, first the branches and the trunk. He gives away all that. Now the apple tree is just a stump. And then an old man comes back and he says, why didn't you come all these days to play? And I've been missing you. He says, now I only am very tired and I need to rest. He says, this stump is very good for resting. You rest. I have nothing else to give you. And the apple tree is very sad. It's crying. Old man cries. He's very sad. And that's the end of the story. Now, the question was, I gave them 4 questions. What did he do when he was young? What did the tree give him when he wanted toys? A sequential kind of a thing. One other question which they had to answer, why did the man cry? Why did the apple tree cry? Okay, I wanted to know that. So in fact, when I gave them a choice, answer any one of the first 5 and then the 6th one. They were able to do that. I thought that, they can't handle choice. Because they're usually given 3 questions, answer all of them. Here is the answer, copy it down, and you will get full marks. But here they were exercising their choice. They answered different questions, and all of them had to answer the last one. So here you can also see Telugu. I'm sorry, it is not too bright. And the Telugu one I can read for you. Why did చెట్టు కొమ్మలు ఇచ్చింది అతను ఎందుకంటే who's that? So he cut it and took it, correct? He gave him branches and he cut it and took it. It's in Telugu. It's not so descriptive in English. Okay? So in the same way, now this is all in English, one of the best, brightest or whatever you call him. And then there is more Telugu here. Okay? It's very sad. Atanu chettu icharu. He played near the tree. చిన్నప్పుడు చెట్టు దగ్గర ఆడుకున్నారు. Okay? So when young, he played near the tree. Now, this kind of construction, of course, they don't know in Telugu, in English. There is one more here. This is undecipherable. Now, there are children of this sort. They don't know words have got, separate entities like this. It runs on. So you have these children also. What I'm trying to say through this is you need to give them feedback. I'm not going to talk about all that, there's no time. For each of these answers, you can sit with the children either in small groups or individually. Why did you write this? Or what have you written? What did you really mean? And so on. So there's a lot of feedback and support and dialogue possible. And then they can, where the class is. Last, I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes more. This was another one where they had to order the story and give captions. When they did it in English, 8th class children, they could barely do it, but when they combined Hindi and English, they did it very well. So I would rather look at what they have understood, whether their cognitive abilities are, working well, instead of just stumping them with saying, write it in English. You don't even know that much to write a caption. So I would be very cautious in asking them or expecting them to write it all in English. Today somebody asked me about this. Another teacher, this is not mine. She is into a lot of translation herself, translation as in using 2 languages for writing. This is grade 8. Why do I not like to write in English? They did a lot of these meta-language or meta-linguistic kind of activities. Why do I not like to write in English? And it's all there, you can see. They have combined the 2 languages and they're very happy to write that way. And they're able to express themselves. Another one is, what do you think of the homework you get? So they always discuss what homework makes them happy, why do they not like to do homework. When they devised their own homework, they all submitted it. They sit and write questions for their homework. So you give it over to the students a great deal. So this is also their answer in Hindi and English. It's a pity you can't read it. हमें जो homework मिलता है, उसके बारे में क्या सोचते हैं? होमवर्क के बारे में ये सोचते हैं कि होमवर्क मिलना चाहिए, तब मिलना चाहिए थोड़े easy like questions चाहिए, okay, and answers. Easy like questions can, easy like do questions and answers. Draw a picture, etc. और तब होमवर्क नहीं मिलने चाहिए जब कठिन होमवर्क हो गया, जब हमें दिमाग में डालकर सोचना है, like imagine interviews and any imagination and so on. I'm not reading the whole thing. So I'm just saying it's possible to make them think about this and not let language or English be a hindrance. They can use whatever they like, whatever, even pictures, they can draw in between and show this. And young children love doing this kind of thing. So I'm just giving you some concluding thoughts. Set up a strong MLE program for our children regardless of the medium of instruction. We do not have a multilingual program in this country. We just talk about learning many languages, R1, R2, R3 now, according to the National Curriculum Framework. I don't know what is R1, R2, R3, by the way. I should have asked Meghanathan, I couldn't. Suddenly it's become R1, R2, R3 instead of L1, L2, L3. Teachers should be encouraged to use all the language resources they have to communicate with and assess their learners and learn to become better multilinguals themselves. You may not be good at all the languages of the children in your class, but when you start interacting, you will learn the language. And they see you as a language learner, and that's a fantastic model to set up. I learned a lot of Hindi from my children, grade 5 children in Delhi University. So I think to say that I can't know all the languages of my children is, I think, not a good approach to take. Focus on including learners and their languages and make assessment child-friendly. We talk about child-friendly assessment, but if you can't use their languages, the way their brains work, you can't include them, then what? Focus on communication, reading, listening for meaning, speaking, writing to express, and not on ready-made correct answers. I think we are all the time stuck on correct answers, and you go on correcting it because you have to please the parents and the principal. So there are lots of correction marks, all for the writing that they have copied from the board. I have seen children copying. They say when teachers want them to be very busy, want them to, get a lot of homework, they say copy twice. Go home and copy it. Do many of you do this? Twice. You give the question and the correct answer. They don't have to do the answer, and then you have to copy it twice. I mean, all this hurts me a lot, and I think we are not getting anywhere with that kind of homework or with that kind of work that we assign. So we need to do something about that. One suggestion I have, listening to all the morning presentations and talks, I'm in a way lucky, although I complain that assessment comes last. I'm lucky because I've heard such luminaries this morning and afternoon. Priya's workshop was so brilliant, and I think we have a lot to put together and take away from here. One thing we can do is, many of you must be very innovative. I'm not at all saying you give very bad homework or set very bad assignments. You must be very innovative, and you must be using many stories, many tasks, many activities that are all multilingual, and including children and their languages and their culture and everything. If you can put it all together, consolidate, you can all collate them together, it's a lot of resource. So if you want to start, one of you wants to start collecting all such tasks and materials, it doesn't have to be NCERT putting together one book for the whole country. You will have, I think, 10 books here ready. So I'm just inviting you to all talk about your best practices, your best exercises, best tasks, everything. I think that's the way to go. We are all multilinguals. We are all multilingual teachers. There's a lot to learn, of course, but then assessment, I think, needs a little more nudge. And we need to be more sympathetic, more humane, and also not be so demanding of our children. When it comes to making mistakes or spelling, punctuation, we become very, very tough. I think that's probably not the way to go. Thank you very much. These are references.